In this exercise, we will learn how we could build this Harman Kardon Allure Wi-Fi speaker. What's going to be interesting about this exercise is how we can plan ahead everything, block it out, then create a concept model, and then we create a meshed model for texturing and rendering. All the images for this exercise are provided, or we can also find them online. I also have a quick sketch here, a thumbnail sketch with just some basic dimensions which we will use. Okay, so step number 1. Go to Blender and we will set the unit system to centimeters. Now instead of having the images on the desktop, we will bring the images into our environment. So let's go first to Edit, Preferences, and then here inside the add-on section, you type in, for example, images, or you can already find it via IMA. And there it is, import image as plain. Let's turn this one on. There are actually 3 methods how we can import images and place them, and I'll show you all 3, and then we will settle on the one that's best for us. Now we can go to Add and Image, and there we have 3 options: image as plain, background, and reference. Let's use image as plain first. Here's the front image. Very good. There's a plane. We can zoom in a little bit. And yeah, where's the image? It's just a plane. The image is actually there as a material. And the reason why we don't see anything is because we are in solid view. If we go to material view, there's the image. And this basically shows you already the problem of this method when we want to use this for placing reference images. We can only see them actually when we are in material view or rendering, but not solid or wireframe. So X and delete. Let's go to the next one. We have 2 here, background and reference. Let's go to background. We do exactly the same. We can zoom out a little bit, rotate our view, and yeah, there we see it. When we look from behind, we can see through the object. So let's take a look at what this actually is. So this object which we created is called an empty. There we see it says empty. The object properties, it's an empty object. And when we go to the object data, we can see that this empty is displayed as an image. We can also display it as a circle, sphere, axes, arrows, etc. So an empty is just a reference point in 3D space. That's it. Then we have some features here or options for size, offset. So for example, 0 means the center point along X is on the left, 1 or -1 you see is on the other side, -0.5 is at the center, 0, -1. Now you see how this works. That's basically a nice option to move the image around in relationship to the object center point. Then we have depth and side. So when we go to the side and turn back on, well, there we can see what happens now. If we do both, we can see both. Now, from back view, this is kind of not good. We want to see this only from the front, which is why, for example, in some cases, you only want to have it visible from the front or the back. Then we have something called to show in orthographic and perspective. This is very useful when we want to eliminate visibility of this image in particular views. We will rotate everything into the correct position. So here in this front view, and let's turn off perspective. So orthographic is turned on, and when I rotate my view, you see it's gone. When I go back to this view, there we can see it. or here. And you see then every time when I switch to orthographic or perspective, it shows or hides. And I can do the opposite. In orthographic it's gone, but in perspective it pops up. Okay, so let's go to the next object, reference. There we are. And it's an empty again. And pretty much, as you can see now, there's no difference between reference and background. It's only a matter of these options, how they are set up. Okay, so we will use actually those options here to set up our scene now. Before we continue, let's actually create a reference object. So we have a scale 64, the radius is 8.5 centimeters and the height is around 20 centimeters. Very good. Then we can go to a front view, zoom in a little bit, GZ, move this one up. I can also control key so I snap actually to the grid since I have grid snapping still turned on. There we are. And yeah, so this is pretty much how big our object will be. Now we can bring in, while we're in front view, the individual images. It doesn't really matter now if we use reference or background because we can switch how they are going to function anyway. So let's go with a reference. We go and use the front view. There we are. And that one is really large, so let's scale this one down. And the size, there we are. And I will move this one here to the left. Maybe make this a tick bigger. Okay. So now I can see how this looks. I have this also in orthographic and perspective. So when I go into this view, so then there I can see this all the time. Let's do this one more time. And we will use the dimension. Also here, this one is pretty big. This is just only a quick sketch. So when I talk about values, then you can see what I'm making a reference to. Very nice. And now we also have some bottom and top details. So let's use the bottom reference. Scale this down. Yeah, and when does it make sense to see this? Maybe from this view, like when we model and we can take a look at it. Or what we will do is, okay, so here 180, we will rotate it, move this up, move this back, and then I can see it actually from there. If I want now here, so I will turn actually only front on. There. Cool, no? Okay. And I also have a top detail. There it is. Oh, that one is pretty large. I added it while I was in a particular view, so I needed to reset X, Y, and Z. S, I can also scale the object via the S command if I want to bring this behind. So maybe to there. And then here we say, just only show me the front. Wait, oh, this is the depth, just the front. And you see how cool this is. Chum, chum. So quite useful. Okay, very good. Now we could, for example, say here this dimension element only show in orthographic. So if I go to this view, zack, I see it. And if I go to this, then it's gone. And then I just have my reference images I could use to use them as a reference when I'm modeling or so. And that pretty much is the way then how we can set up everything. We will call this collection references. We the cylinder here we will delete. We don't need it anymore. And to make sure we cannot really interact with these empty objects in 3D space, so by actually clicking and moving them, we can turn off this render flag here. You see we have all these turned on. Sorry, not render flag, the select flag. And now I cannot click on them. I can only select them now here inside the collection system. So there I can adjust everything, but I cannot select them inside the 3D view anymore. Okay, so everything is ready for us to start modeling.